The longest day. Jasmine Brooks adjusted her laptop bag on her shoulder and sighed deeply as she pushed through the revolving doors of the West Technologies building. Her feet ached in the 2-inch heels she wore, a compromise between professional and comfortable. At 27, she had worked hard to earn her position as marketing coordinator, but today had tested every ounce of her patience. The quarterly presentation had gone poorly, not because of her work, but because her supervisor Tyler Grant had taken credit for her campaign ideas right in front of the executive team. Jasmine had sat there, smiling politely while seething inside, unable to speak up without seeming petty or confrontational. She pressed the elevator button harder than necessary, watching the numbers descend. 12, 11, 10. Her phone buzzed. Megan Torres, her best friend since their college days at NYU. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. Jasmine stepped inside, barely noticing the tall man in the expensive charcoal suit standing in the corner, his attention fixed on his phone. She hit the button for the lobby and immediately answered Megan's call. The call that changed everything. "Hey, Meg," Jasmine answered, leaning against the elevator wall. "Finally, I've been trying to reach you all day. How did the presentation go?" Jasmine's shoulders slumped. Tyler stole my ideas again. Presented them like they were his own brilliant concepts. "That snake." "Jazz, you need to report him to HR." "And say what? That I feel overlooked? That'll make me look weak." Jasmine closed her eyes, exhaustion washing over her. "I'm just tired of fighting for basic respect." Speaking of fighting, Megan's tone shifted. "Did you go on that date I set up for you last weekend?" Jasmine groaned. "The guy who spent the entire dinner talking about his cryptocurrency investments?" "Yeah, that was a disaster." "Come on, Jazz. You're 27. You can't keep avoiding relationships forever." The words hit harder than Megan intended. Jasmine felt heat rising to her cheeks. "I'm not avoiding anything. I'm just selective." "Selective?" Megan's voice rose with frustration, clearly audible in the quiet elevator. "Jasmine Brooks, you haven't been intimate with anyone because you're terrified of being vulnerable. You build walls higher than the Empire State Building." Jasmine's hand tightened on her phone. "Megan, lower your voice." But Megan was on a roll. "When was the last time you even kissed someone? Actually let yourself feel something real? You use work as an excuse to avoid living your actual life." "That's not fair," Jasmine protested weakly. "It's completely fair. You're beautiful, smart, successful, but you're so scared of getting hurt that you won't let anyone close. You deserve love, Jazz. Real love. But you have to be willing to risk something to get it." Jasmine felt tears prickling her eyes. "I know that. Don't you think I know that?" The realization. "Then why won't you try? What are you so afraid of?" The question hung in the air. Jasmine swallowed hard. "I'm afraid of giving myself to someone who doesn't deserve it. Of being seen as just another conquest. Of trusting someone with the most intimate parts of myself only to discover they were never serious in the first place." Her voice cracked slightly. "I'm afraid that if I open up completely, if I let someone in that deeply, they'll realize I'm not worth staying for. That I'm not enough." The confession spilled out before she could stop it. Raw, honest, vulnerable in a way she rarely allowed herself to be. "Oh, Jazz," Megan's voice softened immediately. "You're more than enough. You always have been. But you'll never believe that until you let someone show you." Jasmine wiped at her eyes quickly. "I have to go. I'll call you later." She ended the call and took a shaky breath, only then remembering she wasn't alone in the elevator. Her eyes flew to the corner where the man in the suit stood. He was no longer looking at his phone. Instead, his dark eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach drop. The man in the corner. She recognized him instantly. Cameron West, the CEO of West Technologies. The man whose name was on the building, whose face appeared in business magazines, whose reputation for brilliant but ruthless business decisions preceded him everywhere. And he had just heard everything. Jasmine wanted the elevator floor to open and swallow her whole. Her face burned with embarrassment so intense she felt lightheaded. "I'm so sorry," she stammered. "I didn't realize anyone was there. I shouldn't have taken that call." It was completely unprofessional. Cameron West studied her for a long moment. He was taller than she expected, probably 6'2", with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead despite obvious attempts to keep it styled back. His jaw was strong, his features sharp, but his eyes held something she didn't anticipate. Understanding. "Don't apologize," he said, his voice deeper than she expected, with a slight rasp that suggested too many late nights and not enough rest. "Authenticity is rare, especially in this building." Stuck. Before Jasmine could respond, the elevator lurched violently. The lights flickered, and everything stopped. Complete silence, except for her sharp intake of breath. "No, no, no," Jasmine muttered, frantically pressing the buttons on the panel. "Nothing happened." "That's not going to help," Cameron said calmly, stepping forward. He pressed the emergency call button. A crackling voice responded immediately. "West Technologies Emergency Services. We're showing elevator 3 stopped between floors 16 and 15. Are there any injuries?" "No injuries," Cameron replied. "2 passengers." "How long until we're moving?" "We've had a power surge in the building's main grid. The backup generators kicked in for essential systems, but the elevators are on manual override. We're looking at approximately 45 minutes before we can safely restart them." 45 minutes. Trapped in an elevator with the CEO, who had just heard her deepest insecurities laid bare. Jasmine slowly slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, her professional composure finally cracking. She buried her face in her hands. This cannot be happening. An unexpected conversation. To her complete surprise, Cameron West loosened his tie, shrugged off his suit jacket, and sat down on the floor across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. "Jasmine Brooks, right?" he asked. "Marketing coordinator on the 12th floor." She looked up, shocked. "You know who I am?" A slight smile played at his lips. "I make it my business to know the people who work for me, especially the ones whose campaign strategies keep getting presented by Tyler Grant, even though anyone with half a brain can tell he couldn't come up with those ideas on his own." Jasmine's mouth fell open. "You knew." "I've known for months. Grant's getting transferred to our satellite office in Denver next week. You're being promoted to senior marketing strategist with your own team. The announcement comes Monday." She couldn't process what she was hearing. "Why are you telling me this?" Cameron leaned his head back against the elevator wall. "Because 45 minutes is a long time to sit in awkward silence. And because that conversation I just heard tells me more about your character than any performance review ever could." Walls coming down. "I'm mortified," Jasmine admitted. "You heard me talking about the most personal things. I heard you being honest about fear and vulnerability, about wanting real connection in a world that often feels fake and transactional." Cameron's expression grew serious. "Do you want to know what I thought when I heard that conversation?" Jasmine wasn't sure, but she nodded anyway. "I thought, finally someone real. Someone who hasn't lost touch with what actually matters." His eyes met hers directly. "Do you know how many people I interact with every day who tell me exactly what they think I want to hear? Who pretend to be someone they're not because they think that's what success requires. But you're the CEO. Everyone wants to impress you." "Exactly. And it's exhausting." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the careful styling. The gesture made him look younger, more approachable. "I spend my entire life surrounded by people, and I'm lonelier than I've ever been." The admission caught Jasmine off guard. Cameron West, the brilliant CEO worth hundreds of millions, was confessing to loneliness. To her, in a stuck elevator. "That's why you're always working," she said, the pieces clicking together. "The late nights everyone talks about. You'd rather be here than go home to an empty apartment." His slight smile held sadness. "An empty penthouse, actually. But yes, you're right." Finding common ground. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Jasmine asked, "Why are you being so open with me?" "Maybe because we're stuck here and there's no point in pretending. Or maybe because you were brave enough to be vulnerable first, even if you didn't mean to." Cameron shifted position slightly. "Can I ask you something? I suppose that's fair, given what you've heard. That fear you mentioned, about not being enough. Where does that come from?" Jasmine considered deflecting, but found herself answering honestly instead. "My mom raised me and my 2 brothers mostly alone. Dad was there, but work construction gone before dawn, home after dark. Mom worked as a nurse, night shifts, double shifts, whatever she could get. I watched her give everything to make sure we had what we needed. She picked at a thread on her skirt. She never complained, never asked for help, just kept pushing forward. And I learned that's what you do. You work hard, you don't burden others with your problems, and you definitely don't expect anyone to take care of you emotionally. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, Cameron said gently. Says the CEO who probably works 80-hour weeks. He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his usually serious face. Fair point. My dad was a factory worker in Detroit. Mom cleaned houses. They saved every penny to send me to community college. I worked 3 jobs while getting my degree, then built my first company from nothing. I didn't know that, Jasmine admitted. The articles always make it sound like you appeared fully formed as a business genius. The articles leave out the part where I ate ramen for 3 years straight and slept in my office because I couldn't afford rent. His expression grew thoughtful. Success changes how people see you. They forget you're human. They project their own ideas of who you must be onto you. The truth about loneliness. Is that why you're single? The question slipped out before Jasmine could stop it. Sorry, that was too personal. No, it's okay. Cameron's jaw tightened slightly. I was engaged 3 years ago. Angela Morrison. She came from old money, the kind of family that has senators and judges in their family tree. I thought she loved me for who I was. But she didn't. She loved the idea of me. The self-made success story she could show off at her parents' country club. When I proposed restructuring my company to focus more on ethical practices instead of pure profit, she gave me an ultimatum. The company or her. He paused. I chose the company. She told me I'd always be more married to my work than to any person. That's harsh. It was true at the time. I threw myself into work even harder after that. Built bigger walls than the ones you mentioned having. Cameron looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Until about 10 minutes ago, I hadn't had an honest conversation with anyone in months. Maybe years. Jasmine felt something shift in her chest. This impossibly successful man was just as scared of vulnerability as she was, just packaged in an expensive suit and corner office. Can I tell you something? She asked. Please do. I'm glad the elevator got stuck. Cameron's smile reached his eyes this time. You know what? So am I. The intercom crackled to life. We're about to restart the elevator system. You should start moving in approximately 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Suddenly, that felt both too long and not nearly enough time. Jasmine, Cameron said as the elevator hummed back to life. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Not as CEO and employee, just as 2 people who might want to get to know each other better. Her heart raced. Every rational thought screamed about complications, about professional boundaries, about the risks of saying yes. But Megan's words echoed in her mind. You have to be willing to risk something to get real love. Yes, Jasmine heard herself say. I'd like that. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. Cameron handed her his business card with his personal number written on the back. 8 o'clock tomorrow. I'll text you the address. He paused at the door. And Jasmine, we're something comfortable. We're not going anywhere fancy. As she watched him walk away, Jasmine realized that 45 minutes in a stuck elevator had just changed the entire trajectory of her life. The morning after Jasmine woke up Saturday morning with her phone clutched in her hand, having checked it approximately 17 times since Cameron's good night text at 11 p.m. The message had been simple. Looking forward to tomorrow. Sleep well, Jasmine. She had not slept well. She had replayed the elevator conversation in her mind for hours, oscillating between excitement and panic. You're going to wear a hole in your phone screen, Megan said, appearing in Jasmine's bedroom doorway with 2 cups of coffee. She had stayed over after Jasmine called her in a frenzy the night before, needing to tell someone about the impossible thing that had happened. What if this is a mistake? Jasmine accepted the coffee gratefully. What if people at work find out? What if it becomes this huge scandal? What if it's amazing? Megan countered, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Jazz, you've spent years protecting yourself from exactly this kind of possibility. Maybe it's time to stop asking what could go wrong and start imagining what could go right. Jasmine's phone buzzed. A text from Cameron. Change of plans. Pick you up at noon instead? Want to show you something before dinner. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Megan grabbed the phone and typed. Sounds perfect. See you then. Megan. Jasmine protested. You're going to overthink it. Sometimes you just have to jump. Megan handed the phone back. Now let's figure out what comfortable but impressive looks like. The unexpected date at exactly noon. Jasmine's phone buzzed again. I am downstairs. She had expected the luxury car, the driver, the whole wealthy CEO package. Instead, when she reached the street in front of her Brooklyn apartment building, she found Cameron West leaning against a normal Toyota sedan, wearing jeans and a navy Henley shirt that made him look completely different from the suit-wearing executive. You look surprised, he said, opening the passenger door for her. I expected something more executive level, Jasmine admitted, sliding into the seat. Cameron got in and started the engine. I told you, this isn't CEO and employee. This is just Cameron and Jasmine. The Toyota is actually mine. I bought it 3 years ago when I wanted something I could drive without attracting attention. Where are we going? You'll see. His smile was mysterious but warm. They drove through Brooklyn, and Jasmine watched as the neighborhoods shifted from her area to places she recognized from childhood. When Cameron pulled up in front of Prospect Park, she turned to him with questions in her eyes. You mentioned yesterday that you grew up in Brooklyn, he explained. I thought maybe you could show me your world before I show you mine. Fair trade. Something melted in Jasmine's chest. Instead of taking her to some expensive Manhattan restaurant where she would feel out of place, he wanted to see where she came from, wanted to understand her. Walking through memories, they walked through Prospect Park, and Jasmine found herself talking more freely than she had with anyone in years. She pointed out the playground where she had skinned her knee at age 7, the field where her brothers had taught her to throw a baseball, the path where her mother used to take them on Sunday walks when money was too tight for other entertainment. We would pack sandwiches and pretend we were on grand adventures, Jasmine said, smiling at the memory. My mom had this way of making everything feel special, even when we had almost nothing. She sounds remarkable, Cameron said. She is. She retired last year after 40 years as a nurse. Now she volunteers at a community clinic in Queens because apparently 40 years wasn't enough. Jasmine laughed. I get my work ethic from her. They stopped at a small food cart, and Cameron insisted on trying a genuine New York hot dog with all the fixings. Watching him eat it with complete sincerity, not a trace of pretension, made Jasmine laugh so hard she had tears in her eyes. What? He asked, mouth half full. Nothing. It's just refreshing to see you like this. Human. I'm always human, Jasmine. I just don't often get to show it. Meeting Paula. There's someone I want you to meet, Jasmine said suddenly, making a decision that surprised even herself. If you're okay with it. 20 minutes later, they were standing outside a modest row house in Flatbush. Paula Brooks answered the door in her gardening clothes, dirt on her hands and surprise on her face. Jasmine, I wasn't expecting you today. Her eyes moved to Cameron, assessing him in that way mothers do. Mom, this is Cameron West. Cameron, this is my mother, Paula. If Paula recognized the name, she didn't show it. She simply smiled and said, Any friend of Jasmine's is welcome. Come in, both of you. I just made lemonade. They sat in Paula's cozy living room, surrounded by family photos and well-worn furniture that had been in the family for decades. Cameron accepted a glass of lemonade and complimented the house with genuine warmth. Jasmine tells me you recently retired, Cameron said. That must be an adjustment after so many years. Paula laughed. Retirement is a loose term. I work at a clinic 3 days a week now. Old habits die hard. She studied Cameron with sharp eyes. And what do you do, Cameron? I run a technology company. Software development, mostly. That sounds important. Do you enjoy it? The question seemed to catch Cameron off guard. I do, although I've realized lately that I've let it consume too much of my life. I'm trying to find better balance. Paula nodded approvingly. Balance is important. Work matters, but so does living. So does connecting with people who matter. Her gaze moved between Cameron and Jasmine. My daughter works too hard sometimes. Forgets to take care of herself. Mom, Jasmine protested, embarrassed. It's true. You get from me, I know. But I don't want you making the same mistakes I did. Don't wake up at 65 realizing you missed half your life because you were too busy working. Cameron's expression turned thoughtful. That's wise advice, Mrs. Brooks. Call me Paula, and it's not advice if I learned it the hard way. She stood up. Now, I'm going to finish my gardening. You two should stay for dinner. Nothing fancy, just chicken and rice, but there's plenty. Sharing stories, they stayed. Paula put Cameron to work chopping vegetables, while Jasmine set the table, and the whole scene felt surreally normal. Cameron told stories about growing up in Detroit, about his parents who had worked themselves to exhaustion to give him opportunities, about the first business he started in his garage with borrowed equipment. My dad didn't understand what I was doing, Cameron said, stirring the rice Paula had assigned him. He kept asking when I was going to get a real job. Then one day, I showed him my first big contract, and he cried. Told me he was proud, but also terrified because he didn't know how to help me in this world I was entering. That's how I felt when Jasmine got her corporate job, Paula said softly. Proud and terrified all at once. That world can be cold. People judge you for where you come from. Some people do, Cameron agreed. But the right people don't care about that. They care about character, integrity, heart. The things that actually matter. Paula caught Jasmine's eye across the kitchen and smiled, a knowing look that made Jasmine's cheeks warm. The real first date after dinner, Cameron drove them back toward Manhattan, but instead of heading to a fancy restaurant, he pulled up in front of a small Ethiopian restaurant in Hell's Kitchen. This was my favorite place when I was starting out, he explained. I could afford to eat here maybe once a month as a treat. The owner, Salam, let me sit for hours working on my laptop. Never rushed me, even when the place got busy. Inside, a woman with silver-streaked hair rushed over and embraced Cameron like a lost son. Cameron, it's been too long. And who is this beautiful woman? Salam, this is Jasmine Brooks. Jasmine, Salam saved my life more times than I can count by feeding me when I was too broke to afford much else. Oh, stop. Salam waved him off but looked pleased. You always paid, eventually. And now look at you, big success. But you forgot us little people. I could never forget you. This place means everything to me. Cameron's sincerity was evident. Can we get the corner table? They sat in the same corner booth where Cameron had apparently spent countless hours building his company. Over injera and shared platters of flavorful stews, he told her the real story of his rise, including the failures, the near bankruptcies, the moments when he almost gave up. The articles make it sound inevitable, Cameron said, like success was always guaranteed. They don't mention the investor who called my ideas worthless to my face, or the time I maxed out 7 credit cards trying to make payroll for my 3 employees, or the night I sat in this exact booth wondering if I should just quit and get a normal job. What stopped you? Jasmine asked. Stubbornness, mostly, and the feeling that I would regret it forever if I didn't at least try to see it through. He took her hand across the table. I've spent 10 years building a company. I've accomplished things I never dreamed possible. But sitting here with you feels more significant than any of that. Jasmine's heart hammered. Cameron, we barely know each other. I know, and I'm not saying I have all the answers or that this is definitely going somewhere. But I know that yesterday in that elevator was the first time in years I felt like myself. Really myself. And today has been the best day I've had in longer than I can remember. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I want more days like this. With you. The first kiss, they walked through Times Square after dinner, both commenting on how touristy and chaotic it was, but neither wanting the night to end. Cameron bought them both hot chocolate from a street vendor, and they found a relatively quiet spot near the park. I need to tell you something, Jasmine said, gathering her courage. If we're going to do this, whatever this is, you need to know that I'm not going to be easy. I have walls, like you said. I've spent years building them. They're not going to come down overnight. I'm not asking them to. I have my own walls, remember? Cameron turned to face her fully. How about we take them down together? One brick at a time. No pressure, no timeline. Just honest. Just honest. Jasmine repeated. The simplicity of it was beautiful. Cameron stepped closer, one hand coming up to cup her face gently. Can I kiss you? The fact that he asked, that he waited for her answer, meant everything. Yes. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, a question being asked and answered. Then deeper, more certain. Jasmine felt the wall she had mentioned cracking, felt herself leaning into something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Cameron rested his forehead against hers. "This is going to be complicated, isn't it?" "Probably," Jasmine admitted. "People will talk. They'll say I'm using you for your money or that you're taking advantage of your position. Let them talk. I stopped living my life according to other people's opinions a long time ago. The only opinions that matter are ours." He kissed her forehead. "And maybe your mom's. I really want her to like me." Jasmine laughed. "She already does. I could tell." Monday morning, reality Monday morning arrived with the weight of reality. Jasmine walked into the West Technologies building with butterflies in her stomach, hyper-aware of every glance from coworkers. Had anyone seen them together over the weekend? Did people know? The email from HR arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, just as Cameron had predicted. Promotion to senior marketing strategist, effective immediately. Her own team, significant raise, office with a window. Everything she had worked for. But immediately, the whispers started. Jasmine heard them in the break room, in the bathroom, in hushed conversations that stopped when she walked by. Convenient timing. Must be nice to have connections. Wonder what she did to earn that. Tyler Grant's face when he received his transfer notice was almost worth the gossip. Almost. Nina Valdez, Cameron's executive assistant, appeared at Jasmine's desk during lunch. "Mr. West would like to see you in his office." The walk to the top floor felt eternal. Jasmine's stomach churned with anxiety about what people would think, seeing her summoned to the CEO's office the same day as her promotion. But when Cameron's door closed behind her, his expression was nothing but concerned. "I heard about the gossip. I'm sorry. I knew it might happen, but I hope people would be more professional. It's not your fault. People talk, especially when things don't fit their narrative." Jasmine sat in one of his visitor chairs. "But Cameron, we need to establish boundaries here. At work, you're the CEO. I'm an employee. We can't blur those lines, or it undermines everything I've worked for." "You're right. Absolutely right." He stayed behind his desk, maintaining proper distance. "At work, we're professional colleagues. Period. What we do outside of work is our business. But here, we maintain appropriate boundaries. Thank you for understanding. Jasmine, that promotion is yours based on merit alone. The decision was made by the marketing director and HR, not by me. I recused myself from any discussions about your career advancement precisely to avoid any conflict of interest. I know that, but not everyone will believe it." Cameron's jaw tightened. "Then prove them wrong. Be so exceptional at your job that no one can question whether you deserve to be there." Family complications 2 weeks later, Cameron met Richard Brooks, Jasmine's father. Unlike the warm reception from Paula, Richard was protective and skeptical from the moment Cameron walked through the door. "So you're the CEO," Richard said, sizing Cameron up with the direct gaze of a man who had worked with his hands his whole life and didn't trust people in suits. "I am. But today I'm just the guy dating your daughter, hoping to make a good impression. Dating my daughter, who also happens to work for your company. That doesn't concern you? The power imbalance." "Dad," Jasmine protested. "It's okay," Cameron said calmly. "It's a fair question, Mr. Brooks. Yes, it concerns me, which is why Jasmine and I have established clear boundaries. At work, we maintain complete professionalism. I've recused myself from any decisions involving her career, and I've made it clear to her that if our relationship ever makes her uncomfortable in any professional capacity, we stop immediately. Her career and comfort come first." Richard studied him for a long moment. "You have money. A lot of money, from what I understand. My daughter doesn't. How do I know you're serious about her, and not just amusing yourself?" The bluntness would have offended many people. Cameron just nodded. "You don't know that. You have no reason to trust me yet. All I can tell you is that I've spent years surrounded by people who want to be with me because of my money, my position, my connections. Your daughter is the first person in longer than I can remember who sees me as just a person, who challenges me, calls me out when I'm wrong, and doesn't let me hide behind my success. She makes me want to be better. Pretty words, true words, and I hope to prove them with actions over time. The tension at dinner remained high, but by the end of the evening, Richard had softened slightly. As Cameron was leaving, he pulled him aside. I've worked construction for 35 years. Built buildings that'll stand long after I'm gone. But my daughter? She's the thing I'm most proud of building. You hurt her, and money won't protect you. We clear, crystal clear, sir. And for what it's worth, I have no intention of hurting her. She means too much to me. Going public, their relationship couldn't stay private forever. A photo surfaced online, taken by someone at the Ethiopian restaurant. Cameron and Jasmine holding hands across the table, looking at each other with obvious affection. Within hours, it was on gossip sites and business blogs. Tech CEO Cameron West spotted with mystery woman. Read the Kinder headlines. Others were less generous. Is this why she got promoted? And West Technology's CEO's newest acquisition. Jasmine's phone exploded with messages. Friends wanting details. Acquaintances she hadn't heard from in years suddenly interested in her life. Reporters requesting comments. Cameron called her that evening. I'm sorry. I should have anticipated this. Should have warned you better. It's not your fault people have nothing better to do than speculate about strangers' lives. Jasmine sat on her couch, feeling overwhelmed. But Cameron, this is intense. People are dissecting every aspect of my life, my background, my job history. They're saying terrible things. I know. I've seen them. And I've had my legal team send cease and desist orders to the worst offenders. But Jasmine, if this is too much, if you want to step back, I understand. The offer was genuine. She could hear it in his voice. He would let her go if she needed to protect herself from this scrutiny. No, she said firmly. I'm not running away because people are judgmental and cruel. You're worth dealing with this. We're worth it. Are you sure? I'm sure. But we do this on our terms. No hiding, but no performing for cameras either. We live our lives. Let people think what they want. Cameron's relief was audible. Together then, together. The ex-fiancée Angela Morrison appeared at a charity gala that Cameron had to attend for business reasons. He had asked Jasmine to accompany him, their first truly public appearance as a couple. Jasmine had bought a dress for the occasion, stretching her budget but wanting to feel confident. Still, walking in the ballroom full of Manhattan's elite, she felt desperately out of place. Angela approached them during cocktail hour. She was everything Jasmine wasn't. Tall, blonde, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Jasmine's monthly rent, moving through the crowd like she owned the room. Cameron, darling, Angela said, kissing both his cheeks in the affected way of old money. How lovely to see you. And this must be the employee everyone's talking about. The way she said employee made it sound like an insult. Jasmine Brooks. Jasmine said, extending her hand with as much grace as she could muster. And senior marketing strategist. Actually, how impressive. Cameron always did have a soft spot for charity cases. Angela's smile was sharp. Tell me, dear, how does it feel to be the flavor of the month? Angela. Cameron's voice went cold in a way Jasmine had never heard. That's enough. I'm just being honest. We both know how this works. Cameron, you get bored easily. You throw yourself into things with intensity, and then you move on. Remember how passionate you were about us. How you said, I was the love of your life. I was wrong, Cameron said flatly. About a lot of things back then, including you. Angela's eyes flashed with anger. You'll realize your mistake. When you're tired of playing dress up with the help and want someone from your actual world, you'll come back. You always do. My actual world. Cameron stepped closer to Jasmine, his hand finding hers. My actual world is wherever Jasmine is. Everything else is just noise. Angela's composure cracked slightly. You're serious about her. Completely serious. And Angela? Don't contact me again. There's nothing left to discuss. As Angela walked away, Jasmine released a breath she didn't know she was holding. That was intense. She's bitter. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Don't be. I can handle bitter ex-fiancés. Jasmine squeezed his hand. Although I appreciate you defending me. Always, Cameron said simply. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of introductions and small talk. Some people were genuinely kind, others openly curious, and a few outright dismissive. But Cameron never left her side, never made her feel less than equal, never allowed anyone to treat her as anything other than someone who belonged. 6 months, in 6 months after that day, in the elevator, Jasmine and Cameron had settled into a rhythm. Weeknights, they usually stayed at their own places, maintaining independence. Weekends were spent together, alternating between his penthouse and her apartment, between fancy restaurants and neighborhood spots. They had dinner with Paula and Richard every other Sunday. Cameron had won Richard over slowly through consistency, showing up even when it wasn't convenient, helping with household repairs, treating Paula with respect and warmth at IT work. They maintained strict professionalism. Jasmine's team thrived under her leadership, and even the harshest critics had to admit she was exceptional at her job. The gossip had died down to occasional whispers. One Saturday morning, Cameron showed up at Jasmine's apartment with coffee and bagels and a nervous energy she hadn't seen before. "I want to show you something," he said. "Will you come with me?" They drove to a beautiful neighborhood in Westchester, tree-lined streets and historic houses. Cameron pulled up in front of a stunning craftsman-style home with a wraparound porch and a yard full of mature trees. "What are we doing here?" Jasmine asked. "Come inside." The house was empty but beautiful. Hardwood floors, big windows, a kitchen that opened to a family room, for bedrooms upstairs, and a basement that could be finished. It was the kind of house that begged to be filled with life and laughter and family. "Cameron, whose house is this?" He turned to her, taking both her hands. "I want it to be ours. If you want it to." Jasmine's heart stopped. "What? I know we've only been together 6 months. I know by most standards that's too fast. But Jasmine, I've never been more certain of anything. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up with you every morning and come home to you every night. I want Sunday dinners here with our families. I want to fill those bedrooms with kids someday, if you want that. I want everything with you." Tears streamed down Jasmine's face. "You're asking me to move in with you? I'm asking you to build a future with me. Not in my space or your space, but in our space. Something we create together. This house must cost a fortune. It's an investment in our future. But Jasmine, if you'd rather start smaller, if this feels like too much, we can find something else. The house doesn't matter. You matter." Jasmine walked through the rooms, imagining their life in this space. She could see Cameron cooking breakfast in the kitchen, could picture family gatherings in the living room, could envision children playing in that big backyard someday. "Yes," she said, turning back to him. "Yes to all of it. To building a life with you, to this house, to taking this chance on us." Cameron swept her into his arms, kissing her deeply. "I love you, Jasmine Brooks. I've loved you since that day in the elevator when you showed me what real courage looks like. I love you too, even though you're terrifying and intense, and sometimes too much." He laughed. "You make me want to be better." Every single day, they stood in the empty house that would soon be their home, holding each other and dreaming about the future, both of them marveling at how a stuck elevator and an overheard conversation had led to this moment, to this love, to this life they were building together. New beginnings. Moving into the Westchester house took 3 weeks of planning and 2 very full moving trucks. Jasmine's modest belongings looked lost in the spacious rooms until Cameron insisted they go furniture shopping together. "I want her input on everything," he said as they walked through a home goods store. "This is our home, not mine. I don't want it to feel like you moved into my space. I want it to feel like ours." They compromised on style, blending Cameron's modern aesthetic with Jasmine's preference for warmth and comfort. The result was a home that felt lived in and loved, with photos of both their families on the walls and books they both enjoyed filling the shelves. Paula visited on the first weekend and walked through every room with tears in her eyes. "My baby girl has a real home," she said, hugging Jasmine tightly. "I'm so proud of you, and so happy you found someone who treats you right." Richard was more restrained but squeezed Cameron's shoulder and said, "You did good with this place. Solid bones. Built to last." "That's what I'm hoping for," Cameron replied, his eyes finding Jasmine across the room. The proposal. 3 months into living together, Cameron started acting strangely. Secretive phone calls. Unexplained errands. Jasmine caught him whispering with Paula on more than one occasion. conversations that stopped abruptly when she entered the room. "Are you planning something?" she asked one evening as they cooked dinner together, a routine they had established early on. "Me? Planning something? Never." His grin was entirely unconvincing. "You're a terrible liar. Good thing I don't make a habit of it then." On a Saturday morning in October, Cameron suggested they visit Prospect Park. "For nostalgia," he said. "Remember our first date when you showed me around?" "That wasn't technically our first date. That was before our first date. Best pre-date I've ever had then." They walked the same paths they had walked months earlier, but this time hand in hand, comfortable in a way they hadn't been then. Cameron led her to a specific spot overlooking the lake, where the autumn leaves created a canopy of gold and red. "This is where you told me about your mom bringing you here for Sunday walks," Cameron said, "about how she made everything feel special even when you had nothing." "I remember. Why are we here?" Instead of answering, Cameron dropped to one knee. Jasmine's hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, Jasmine Brooks. 9 months ago, I was stuck in an elevator having the worst and best 45 minutes of my life. You showed me what it meant to be vulnerable, to be real, to be human. Since then, every day with you has been the best day of my life." He pulled out a ring box, opening it to reveal a stunning but not ostentatious diamond ring. "I don't want to spend another day not being engaged to you. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me?" Tears streamed down Jasmine's face. "Yes. Yes, absolutely yes." Cameron slipped the ring on her finger and then stood to kiss her as applause erupted around them. Jasmine pulled back to see Paula, Richard, Megan, Derek, and several other friends and family members emerging from behind trees and benches, cameras out, faces beaming. "You planned all this?" Jasmine asked, laughing through tears. "With considerable help. Your mom is terrifyingly good at keeping secrets." Paula rushed over to hug them both. "Welcome to the family officially, Cameron." Richard shook Cameron's hand firmly. "You asked my permission 3 weeks ago. Took you long enough to actually do it. I wanted it to be perfect." "It was perfect," Jasmine said, looking at the ring, then at Cameron, then at all the people they loved gathered to celebrate with them. "It was absolutely perfect. Wedding planning. The engagement party was held at their house, a casual barbecue that mixed both their worlds." Cameron's business associates mingled awkwardly with Jasmine's Brooklyn neighbors at first, but by the end of the night, everyone was laughing together over beers and stories. Wedding planning proved more complicated. Cameron wanted to give Jasmine whatever she wanted, regardless of cost. Jasmine wanted something meaningful without being excessive. They compromised on a medium-sized wedding at a beautiful venue in upstate New York, elegant but not ostentatious. "I want our families to feel comfortable," Jasmine explained to the wedding planner. "I don't want anyone feeling like they don't belong." "The best weddings reflect the couple," the planner said. "Sounds like you two are all about bringing different worlds together. Let's make that the theme." Guest list negotiations were trickier. Cameron's business contacts wanted invitations. People Jasmine barely knew from college sent congratulations with hints about attending. They decided to keep it to 150 people, only those who genuinely mattered to them. "Quality over quantity," Cameron said as they finalized the list. "I'd rather celebrate with people who actually care about us than impress people we barely know." Dress shopping became an adventure. Paula, Megan, Cameron's mother Linda, and 2 of Jasmine's cousins joined her at a bridal boutique in Manhattan. The first few dresses felt wrong, too fancy or too simple. Then the consultant brought out a gown that made everyone gasp. Fitted lace bodice, flowing skirt, elegant but not overdone. When Jasmine stepped out of the dressing room, Paula started crying immediately. "That's the one," Linda said softly. "That's definitely the one." Jasmine looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked like a bride, like someone about to start the biggest adventure of her life. "It's perfect," she whispered. The interference. 2 months before the wedding, Angela Morrison made one final attempt at disruption. She called Cameron directly, something his assistant had been instructed to prevent. "I need to see you," she said. "It's important. About your engagement." Against his better judgment, Cameron agreed to meet her at a coffee shop public and neutral. He told Jasmine about it immediately. Do you want me to come? Jasmine asked. No, whatever she has to say, I can handle it. But I'm not keeping secrets from you. At the coffee shop, Angela was perfectly composed, her designer clothes and styled hair a stark contrast to the casual Saturday crowd around them. Thank you for meeting me, she said. What do you want, Angela? To apologize and to warn you. She stirred her untouched coffee. I was bitter and cruel at the gala. You deserve better than that. You've clearly found something real with Jasmine, and I shouldn't have tried to diminish it. Okay, apology accepted. What's the warning? People in our circle are talking. They're planning to make the wedding difficult. Protests about the class difference, media attention designed to embarrass Jasmine, plans to crash the event. I don't agree with it, but I thought you should know. Cameron's expression hardened. Who specifically? Angela named 3 of Cameron's former business associates, people he had distanced himself from over the years due to their questionable ethics. They think you've betrayed your class by choosing someone they consider beneath you. It's disgusting, but it's happening. Why are you telling me this? Because regardless of our history, you don't deserve to have your wedding ruined. And Jasmine definitely doesn't deserve it. Angela met his eyes. For what it's worth, I've watched you over these months. You're happier than I ever saw you when we were together. She's good for you. Don't let small-minded people destroy that. Cameron relayed everything to Jasmine that evening. Her first instinct was to downsize the wedding, make it private and small. No, Cameron said firmly. We're not letting them win. We're having the wedding we want, surrounded by people we love. I'll hire extra security. I'll have my legal team ready. But we're not hiding our happiness because some people can't stand to see it. I don't want our wedding to become a circus. It won't be. I promise you that. He pulled her close. Jasmine, I've spent too many years living according to other people's expectations. I'm done with that. We do this our way, and anyone who has a problem with it isn't welcome in our lives anyway. The bachelor and bachelorette parties. Derek organized Cameron's bachelor party, keeping it low-key at Cameron's request. Dinner at the Ethiopian restaurant where he'd taken Jasmine on their first date, followed by drinks at a quiet bar with his closest friends. Never thought I'd see you like this, Derek said, raising his beer. Happy. Genuinely happy. Jasmine's the best thing that ever happened to you. I know, Cameron agreed. Best elevator malfunction of my life. The guys laughed, and someone asked for the full story. Cameron told it, including the embarrassing parts, the vulnerability, the immediate connection he'd felt. You knew right away, one of his friends asked. I knew something significant was happening. Took me a little while to recognize it as love, but yeah, I knew she was different from anyone I'd ever met. Megan planned Jasmine's bachelorette party at a spa, followed by dinner and dancing. Nothing wild, just good friends celebrating together. As they soaked in a hot tub, Megan turned to Jasmine with a knowing smile. Remember when you said you were too scared to be vulnerable? Look at you now. I'm still scared sometimes, Jasmine admitted. Marriage is huge. Forever is terrifying. But worth it. Absolutely worth it. Cameron sees me. Really sees me. All my mess and fear and insecurity, and he loves me anyway. That's worth being scared for. Paula, joining them in the hot tub, added, every marriage worth having requires courage. You're choosing to trust someone with your heart every single day. That's brave, baby girl.